This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidhu-Yuart. It's Tuesday, January 28th. This is Africa 54. Africa 54 takes a closer look at a human rights group's grim findings about the detention and abuse of Rwanda's street children. New White House rules target birth tourism. We'll explain what it means. And we'll have a live report on the spread of the coronavirus and what's being done to contain the deadly outbreak. We begin in Rwanda, a country often praised internationally for its economic progress and reintegration after the 1994 genocide. But Human Rights Watch alleges that street children are being subjected to abusive detention at a holding center in Kigali. Megan Revel reports.
Rwanda is detaining and abusing street children at a holding center in the capital, Kigali, an international rights group said on Monday. A report by New York-based Human Rights Watch released accounts from 30 children, aged between 11 and 17, who have been held at the facility known as the Gikondo Transit Center. Rwanda's Justice Minister Johnson Busingye said the center trains young people in skills including carpentry and welding and rehabilitates them for life on the streets. But the children in the report painted a picture of sporadic medical care, sharing lice-infested mattresses with other children, and of no support for rehabilitation. All but 2 of them said officials had beaten them. President Paul Kagame is praised abroad for steering a peaceful recovery in Rwanda since the 1994 genocide. But he has also been criticised for what rights groups say are widespread abuses, a muzzling of independent media, and a suppression of political opposition. Human Rights Watch called for Gikondo to be immediately closed, saying the government is arbitrarily arresting people and holding them there. Busingye said in a text message that, quote, "These centres are run in full compliance with the law."
That was Reuters' Megan Revel reporting. Migrants living in northern Paris' biggest remaining makeshift campsite were given the boot early Tuesday as police cleared out the encampment. The French government is facing intense pressure to show it's taking a tough stance on illegal immigration. The migrant camp was hosting more than 1,000 migrants and refugees who had been sleeping in squalid conditions for months. Authorities say the migrants were transported by buses to new accommodations. The refugees appeared to be mainly from North Africa, the Middle East and Asia. Since the closure in 2016 of a huge migrant camp in Calais, many refugees have moved to Paris. Authorities have repeatedly dismantled illegal campsites only to see them pop up again in different areas a few months later. The investigation into the tragic death of Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and 7 others continues on Tuesday. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, the helicopter Bryant was on apparently climbed to avoid a cloud layer just before slamming into a hillside near Los Angeles. A spokesperson for the U.S. Transportation Safety Agency says she is confident investigators will find the cause of the deadly helicopter crash.
There's a lot of information that we request as part of the investigation. That's pilot records, company records, information on weather, ATC communications. So the wreckage itself is only a piece of that. So I'm very confident we'll determine the cause of the accident.
Air traffic controllers say the pilot's message that he had to climb to avoid the clouds was the last thing they heard from the copter. U.S. federal rules do not require helicopters to carry black boxes. The crash on Sunday stunned the sports world, leaving many heartbroken, including one fan who took a photo with Kobe Bryant. The helicopter was heading to a youth basketball tournament at Mamba Academy, named in honor of Bryant, and where his daughter Gianna was scheduled to play. As the world remembers Kobe Bryant, fans in Los Angeles paid tribute to the basketball legend who made the city his home. And as VOA's Mike O'Sullivan reports, many call him an inspiration.
An outpouring of grief outside Staples Center, home of the LA Lakers, where Kobe Bryant spent most of his career. He died in a helicopter crash with his 13-year-old daughter and 7 others. Thousands have come to mourn at this growing memorial.
Kobe was my son's basketball idol, and I allowed him, as a little boy growing up, to watch Kobe play and brought him to the Staples Center. So I'm here to kind of bring closure to a family and to let his family know that we care about them and love them and will always have them close to us in our heart.
Kobe came from Philadelphia, but made LA his own.
He brought a lot of people together. He did a lot for the community. And he's not even from LA, but he's from Philly, but he still did a lot for the community, he gave back.
Touching many lives.
He's, like a celebrity. You've never met him, but like when I was younger, I broke my leg and I would just sit at home while everyone else was out playing, and I would just watch him play, and he was just like somebody to help you keep going. And it's just like part of your life.
Students at Marymount California University also grew up with Kobe Bryant.
When you're 5, 6, 7 years old, he's bringing championships to LA. They're having the parades. You see everything's Kobe, and it's like you grow up idolizing him.
His intensity was inspiring.
He kind of taught a lot of people how to live life and just go for everything that you possibly could think of. Get what you want and get what you deserve.
He overcame obstacles. A quotation from Kobe Bryant on recovering from an injury inspired another fan.
I have the quote here on my phone, actually, and I sometimes look at it to kind of like find strength.
Coping with the shock of lives cut short in a tragic accident, a sports icon among the victims. Mike O'Sullivan, VOA News, Los Angeles.
The White House has announced new visa rules to stop what is known as birth tourism. The new guidelines state the United States can deny tourist visas to pregnant women if consular officers determine that the applicant is traveling to give birth in America in order to secure the child's U.S. citizenship. VOA's Adita Dunelari has the details.
Back in 2018, VOA talked to Nalia Valieva, whose Florida-based company, Happy Baby, arranged trips to the United States for expectant mothers, helping them find U.S. doctors and accommodations in exchange for thousands of dollars.
It's not illegal to come to Miami to have a baby. Many people agree the U.S. healthcare is one of the best in the world. The climate is fantastic, mothers have everything they need, and things are fairly easy.
But the Trump administration wants to put an end to so-called birth tourism, announcing Thursday that U.S. travel for the primary purpose of obtaining U.S. citizenship for a child by giving birth is an unacceptable reason for obtaining a visa. The State Department says the new measure is intended to protect American citizenship from exploitation. Immigration analyst Sarah Pierce says that she sees no positive impact from the new policy, noting existing practices already give U.S. consular officers the authority to deny tourist visas for a number of issues, including suspicion of so-called birth tourism.
It really just puts extra pressure on officers to make sure that women are not coming to the United States for the purpose of birth tourism. But all of this, the power and the rules, they really existed to begin with.
Back in 2018, this Russian native said it was simply easier to have her baby in the United States.
Pregnancy is viewed as a disease in Russia. You have to go see the doctor all the time, have a million tests. Here in the U.S., it's easy. You get a sonogram, hear the baby's heartbeat, you're free to go until the next appointment.
The Trump administration's crackdown on birth tourism is not necessarily new. Last December, a Chinese woman was convicted of visa fraud in the U.S. for operating a scheme that helped Chinese women obtain U.S. tourist visas to give birth and secure American citizenship for their newborn babies.
This policy has even created an entire industry of birth tourism, big business.
President Trump campaigned on tightening anti-immigration policies, and he may be betting that targeting birth tourism could be a political winner at the polls in November. Arita Dunellari, VOA News, Washington.
For more on birth tourism, I'm joined in the studio by Gianna LeBlanc. She is a national security and foreign affairs legal professional. Gianna, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Now, any surprises here that the U.S. has finally closed this loophole of people who come here just to give birth so their kids can become U.S. citizens?
I think looking at this matter from a purely objective perspective, well, first and foremost, let's talk about the Constitution. The Constitution makes it such that anybody who is born on American soil is considered to be a United States citizen unless you're a child of a diplomat, right? However, there are people, in my personal opinion, who have abused the system, who have come here and have children. And when you have a child who is a U.S. citizen, that child enjoys so many benefits, like health care, access to education, and so many other services. So again, looking at this matter purely from an objective perspective, it is problematic. And the Center for Migration Study estimates that it costs taxpayers roughly $2.4 billion annually in terms of making sure children who are beneficiaries of birthright citizenship could have access to life, liberty, and happiness.
Taxpayers pay for this. People come here, some of them knowing we only are going for this one reason. So do we know if the U.S. is now going to take legal action, investigate further to find out if there are any people who came here and gave birth so their kids could be citizens and maybe some legal action taken?
Well, the Constitution, how it is, would require an amendment from Congress, which I don't think this is going to happen right now. But the president has recently announced that consulars at various embassies throughout the United States will ascertain when women are applying for visas whether or not they are pregnant. And if they believe that this woman may be entering the United States as a pregnant woman, there is a likelihood that your visa application could be denied. And as a sovereign state, I think this issue is in the national interest of the United States of America to ensure that America is only utilizing its resources for people who are genuinely U.S., not necessarily U.S. citizens, but green card holders, and who are genuinely living in the United States. Not a matter of coming to the U.S., have your baby, and leave, go to your country, and when it's time for that child to attend college, you send that child to the United States.
A big moral question there, but let's turn to Liberia, where now immigrants from Liberia can now become American citizens after living in America for decades in limbo. But who is eligible to become a U.S. citizen here?
So this was one of the greatest gifts to Liberians living in America. We have roughly 4,000 Liberians who were DED recipients. That was their status because of conflict in their countries. They came to the United States. So under this law, technically everyone who has DED status could now apply for permanent residency and ultimately citizenship. However, one thing that I think Liberians who have this status should be cautioned about is that if you have a criminal record, like a felony, or you've committed crimes that are considered to be crimes of moral turpitude, you could be denied to adjust your status to green card. And one of the problems with that is such, oftentimes immigrants are not in the position to hire private attorneys. They're often left with public defenders or people who may not be well equipped to handle their matters, or people who don't understand the implication that a criminal conviction could have on their immigration case. So, I would recommend that if you are Liberians who have DD status and you also have a criminal record, to consult with an attorney to see what your options are.
Joanne, thank you very much. We're running out of time. Great topic. Thank you very much. All right. Joanne LeBlanc is a national security and foreign affairs legal professional. We'll be right back. Stay right here. We're on time.
Chibana chimalata, chibana chimalata, ungakhala pabwino, oyipa pamayitana. Chibana chimalata, ungakhala panchito, ulova umakodola. Chibana chimalata, ungakhala pabanja, umbeta umayitana.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. When Mohammed al-Muhanna was 15 years old, he had to hide his newly purchased oud on his route home from the market to avoid trouble. Back then, music, entertainment, and other art forms were frowned upon in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Rapid social changes under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, like lifting bans on women driving, gender mixing, and public entertainment, has in recent years allowed al-Muhanna and other Saudis to no longer hide their passion. Today, Saudis of all ages can be seen browsing for instruments at the oldest music instrument market in Riyadh. The turnaround is also positive for music shop owners who are seeing their sales increase and their businesses boom. Next up, these farmers in Asembo, in Kenya's western Siaya County, spend several hours a month harvesting water hyacinth along the shores of Lake Victoria. The farmers have found a way to turn the intrusive hyacinth weed into manure in a bid to help stop spread of the weed and also boost soil fertility in farms. Water hyacinth is choking off large parts of Lake Victoria, the world's second largest freshwater lake that straddles Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Soil degradation affects about 180 million people in sub-Saharan Africa, costing them $68 billion per year, according to a report by Agriculture for Impact.
Everything as well too. Awesome. So this is your towel, and this is your remote. And welcome to Hippopod.
And finally, at Cape Town's Hippopod Hotel, guests don't check into their rooms. They check into their very own pod, a tiny room within a room. It's one of Africa's first dedicated pod hotels. Every room has 6 pods, each with a double bed, meaning each room could potentially hold up to 12 guests. Hippopod has a total of 200 pods and 50 private rooms, which are still under construction. The hotel opened late last year. Private rooms, the entertainment and reception area are still under construction and should be finished by the end of January. Prices start from $17 a night. And that's what's trending today.
It's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudo with an update on coronavirus. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. The coronavirus has claimed more than 100 lives, and over 4,500 cases have been confirmed in mainland China. And authorities say the outbreak of the virus is rapidly spreading in the country. Outside of China, several countries are reporting cases of the disease, including Thailand, Japan, the United States, Taiwan, Australia, France, Canada, and Germany. Africa reported its first suspected cases of the coronavirus when a woman in Côte d'Ivoire with flu-like symptoms was put under observation after arriving from Beijing on the weekend. A Kenyan student who flew home from China with coronavirus-like symptoms has been admitted at the hospital. Countries worldwide are stepping up screenings at border checkpoints to prevent the spread of the illness. There is no specific treatment for coronaviruses, a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from the common cold to pneumonia. Experts say the first patient infected with the current outbreak of coronavirus acquired the virus directly from animals. Joining me live via Skype from Florida for more insight on the coronavirus is Sean Beckman, Assistant Professor of Biology at Stetson University. Professor Beckman, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much for having me.
There are several types of coronaviruses. What are the particulars regarding this one that came out of Wuhan, and what makes it so severe compared to others?
There's a number of potential factors that impact this, and we're still learning more and more about this virus every day, honestly, every hour as we study it. But anytime a new virus arises and crosses the species barrier from a non-human animal into a human, it has the potential to have devastating effects because this is something that our immune system isn't used to. This isn't just the common cold. This is a new thing that our body hasn't seen before and has seemingly the ability, at least initially, to avoid some of the immune responses that we would normally take on in the common cold. Given its respiratory nature and the fact that it's attacking the respiratory system, it has a lot of potential for difficulty with breathing and various other respiratory issues that particularly in people that have respiratory issues to begin with, or in areas that are prone to air pollution or are immunosuppressed are going to be the ones that are most affected. Okay, so Professor Beckman, this is a zoonotic virus, just like the Ebola virus. How do people protect themselves from viruses such as these? To be honest, it has a lot to do with where you are geographically. If you're within China right now, I think precautions are at a heightened level. Wearing masks is always a good idea. It can't prevent 100% infection, but it's your best bet. In addition, following good hygienic protocol, washing hands, not touching your eyes, touching your mouth, avoiding contact with people that have respiratory issues, and if you're seeing symptoms yourself, seeking out medical attention immediately. How concerned should we be? We've seen in the past the MERS virus, the SARS, they're all coronaviruses. Now the Wuhan. How concerned should we be with this one? I think that a similar level of concern, which has been shown with previous, the SARS and MERS were both great examples of this, of being cautious, being careful. There's a potential for spread of this. It seems like the majority of this is located within central China, although it is spreading out of there. Outside of China and outside of Southeast Asia, I think just following normal protocols and normal everyday life, hygiene and sanitation is good. But if you're in those particular areas, being at a heightened awareness and taking extra precautions is necessary. Okay, Professor Beckman, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. And that was Professor Sean Beckman. He's Assistant Professor of Biology at Stetson University in Florida. Now, Dr. Anthony Fauci is director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases here in the United States. He elaborates on lessons learned from the past outbreaks and the prospects of a vaccine to prevent transmission of the coronavirus. Take a listen.
Yes, it's a combination of classic public health measures of containment together with the rapid development of diagnostics, therapeutics, and vaccines. Screening at ports of entry are helpful but not perfect. I mean, there's a lot of instances of people getting through the screening who actually are infected because you have an incubation period. There will be a vaccine if this turns into a pandemic. I can guarantee you that because we're working on it. But if it just dissipates and disappears the way SARS did, I don't think there will be enough time to make a vaccine. I hope that that's the case, that it's taken care of by public health measures and we don't have to have a vaccine. But if it becomes a serious outbreak globally, I can guarantee you that there will be a lot of effort to get a vaccine. I think that this is still a threat and we need to pay serious attention to it and take it very, very seriously. I mean, hopefully it will be contained, but it could turn into a global pandemic.
And that's our health report for today. Esther, back to you.
Thank you so much, Leno. And be sure to watch Leno Mudu's health reports every Tuesday right here on Africa 54. In other news, a Malawi High Court is ordering public schools to accept students with dreadlocks after an 8-year-old girl was barred from class over her hair. The Blantyre Girls Primary School last September said the girl would have to cut her hair to be within school guidelines or else she would not be allowed in class. But the court says banning students over their hair was denying them their right to education. Lamek Messina reports from Blantyre.
Rastafarian Fenia Mbewe was upset when the Blantyre Girls Primary School refused to enroll her daughter, Makeda Mbewe, because of her hair. The school said the girls' dreadlocks were against a policy requiring students to have their hair shortly trimmed. So Mbewe took the school to court and won. Malawi's High Court this month ordered all public schools to allow students with dreadlocks.
We are very much excited because in this battle, we're not fighting for Makeda alone, but all the other children who are turned back from school. The problem is widespread.
The Malawi High Court also ordered the school to give Mbewe extra classes to make up for those she missed. Rastafarianism is an Abrahamic religion from Jamaica that stresses living what they regard as naturally, including with hair.
In our religion, they say every Rasta have to keep dreadlocks. When we go to the number 6 in the book of the Bible, the number 6 says, if you want to work full-time, the works of the Most High as a Nazarite, you have to keep your dreadlocks, you have to keep your hair grow.
Malawi's Rastafarians have long been sidelined by education policy requiring students to cut their hair to promote uniformity in school. Some Rastafarian parents chose private schools, while others gave in and cut their children's dreadlocks.
When I took my children to a public school, they refused to enroll them until they cut their dreadlocks. I tried to find an alternative, but I failed. So instead, I trimmed their hair so that they could get an education.
The High Court ruling means Rastafarian parents will no longer have to choose between their religious practice or sending their children to public schools. Malawi's education authorities refused to talk to a reporter on the matter and have until February 4 to appeal against the High Court's order. Lamek Messina for VOA News, Blantyre.
And that wraps up our show for today. Watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.